They're appropriating images that are already in the, like, you know, in the public spectrum, in the sense, like, kind of like what Warhol would do. They would take like a Mao and or whatever. I didn't see anything quite like that, but they would take like an image of someone like he did with Leonard Nimoy, put like, you know, wig on it.
No,
his employees did that.
He turned
Leonard
all of
Nimoy's
these celebrities
face.
into
Yeah,
Maryland's.
yeah. So it was.
His employees did too. You wonder how much did he really input into that? How
Well,
much?
he didn't do any of the work himself, like the hand.
I know,
No,
but
he
like,
came up with the
ideas.
ideas.
yeah, but how much of that idea was him, and how much of it was the artist that he employed putting that forward? You know, because art was a collaborative thing. It was all these talented people who he said, you know, do this idea, but you know, that's all their perception of it and impression of it. So really, how much of that really was him?
I mean, the only person that he really couldn't bite off of, honestly, was Ron English. I mean, maybe like subject-wise, but like quality-wise, he couldn't, because doing, you know, Shepard Fairey's work, like what he's doing, I mean, coming up with the ideas for the stuff is difficult, but essentially the execution. And what Banksy is doing, I mean, you see his skill in that. Like, he was just amazing. Like, doing stuff on the fly, like putting a stencil together on the fly. You know, he's got his chops, you know, and he's like, hey, this is what I do, this is my life, I work hard. And he's still, I think he's one of the few really legit guys, because he's willing to make a statement and saying, hey, I'm not showing my face still, you know?
He created his own image too. He wasn't like just like, you know, taking something.
That was the other thing. He was
original
Mr. You know, the guy we're talking about, Terry. He was all over the film. Obviously, after a while, he was doing illegal street art, but he was featured in the film. I think one or two other of the artists he was hanging out with actually weren't blurred out either. So I thought that was interesting. And in perspective, would he get in trouble? Even showing the footage from Disneyland and explaining how he got out of trouble when he got picked up.
No, because he didn't actually do it.
Well, he taped it. He's an accomplice. I mean, granted, they didn't do anything. They didn't damage anything. They just, you know, but it was still kind of cool.
So what do you think? What do you guys think about their means? Like, they're successful gallery artists now, and yet they still choose to go out all over the world and put their art up on walls, you know, illegally. Do you think that has to do with an addiction? Do you think it has to do with kind of, you know, like the rush of it and stuff like that? Do you think it has to do with like maintaining street cred? Because, I mean, their pieces are selling for tons of money. Or do you think, you know, there's something else involved? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it's the whole crux of their art. I mean, their art wouldn't mean anything. It wouldn't be worth anything if they hadn't done it on the street first. So they have to be street artists. That's their whole, not gimmick, but that's their whole like persona is, this is an organic street artist person who sells in a gallery, but if he became a gallery artist, no one would want their work. They, you know, the whole point of their whole style is what
edgy,
they do as
it's like an element of danger.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. Like someone who buys their art, you know,
sharing in that, I guess, made that experience.
You know, this was on the street at some point, or an interpretation of this was.
Right.
I don't know, because like we've been to LA and we've seen, you know, like different works and stuff like that around there, and it's just like, I mean, it's cool. Like you wish you could just like rip it right off the wall, and it doesn't work like that. But I mean, you just gotta wonder. Okay, these guys are successful now.
Right.
Some of these guys have families. You know, you get. I mean, you know, California. You know, it's a felony to do graffiti. You get.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So, you know, you become you get busted 3 times and you go to jail for life. You know, 3 times
happened
loser
to
laws.
Stu.
You know? Yes, that happened to Stu.
Unless you're
Are you
as rich
serious?
as
I think so.
Shepard Fairey.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah, they're good
So
lawyers.
jail for life. It was a guy and a girl, right?
probably. I don't know what Stu.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal with Stu was.
No, it was
if
one
you don't
guy.
know, Stu was
Or
a person
Dub. Sorry.
Well, there were 2 graffiti artists that got hit really hard. Well, they were taggers. They weren't graffiti artists, really.
Yeah.
There was Stu, who just wrote Stu on everything, and then there was R.I.P., who did a little tombstone with R.I.P. on everything, and they decided to make examples of them by trying them for each individual instance of you know, when they found their stuff, which really, you know, you can think that that's messed up. Yeah, but
Yeah, it's more like speculation than anything. Too,
right?
don't you
Yeah,
think?
totally.
Yeah, it could have been.
But what do you think? Like, what do you think? Do you think that street art has a necessary place, since it's it's proven itself as being
Yeah.
gallery worthy. It's being held by art collectors. It's being viewed as an essential piece. Does it still belong on the streets?
It's been here since the beginning of time.
You know what
really.
though? The thing after seeing that movie though, it almost made me not want to collect a lot of that stuff just because the people who were doing it. I mean, maybe it's just like that art collector lady. There was this lady walking around. You know, she's going. I have all the famous people. I have a Banksy. I have a Shepard Fairey. I have all this stuff, and it was like
It's not about that.
it kind of cheapened it.
I kind of think you had some Shepard Fairey too.
Oh, yeah.
And that was after. And that was after.
Right.
And that was after he was very. I mean, I do
I have the
too.
Hope one too. The
Oh,
really
right,
huge
but-
one.
And
It's
like,
different if I own it, right?
Well, no, I mean, it's like he was definitely already very popular at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
I started collecting like his stuff. I only had 2 of his pieces. We have 3. I gave one of them to my brother, but it's like, you bought these pieces for what, $40?
Yeah, like 20.
And then I
20,
have
$40.
like one of them that I just lucked out on picking the right color of it, and it's already appreciated and it's worth like $400 or $500 now. It's like people who were on the train early on, they're gonna win. They have like these large pieces of art. They're gonna be worth a lot of money. But I don't know. Do you think that it's depreciated now? Do you think, like personally, do you think that having collected it from early on, do you think that it's worth less to you? What do you think?
I think personally that the things like this, like Shepard Fairey's art, it works on the street because it's supposed to send, after the whole Obey thing, when he started actually getting political, it's supposed to send a message.
Mhm.
He wasn't just trying to send empty messages. After a while, he wanted to project something.
Right.
And that that art is what belongs on the streets, the stuff that he's trying to get out to the public. But when it's put on a poster and it's hanging in your living room, it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's not reminding you of anything. It's not motivating you to do something about your situation or your government or whatever it is that
It's more of a
he's trying to.
snapshot in time.
Yeah,
of,
it's just like oh,
feeling.
remember when that was cool? And I feel like that's how Shepard Fairey's art is going to be like in the future. People are going to see your Hope poster and they're going to be like, oh yeah. Or people are going to see the Obey thing and they're going to be like, that guy. The guy used Photoshop to do everything. Like, it's not real art.
So basically what we're saying, it's not really meant to be displayed on the wall. It's more about spontaneity, present tense. See it once, it's kind of like a personal experience, and then you kind of...
But on that level, it might
That's
be
it.
more of a
I feel-
documenting type
Yeah.
of art.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
art that was a snapshot of time.
Yeah.
Something that's...
I mean, I feel like they had it right when they were talking about Andy Warhol and how he was pushing things in people's faces. Like, I'm going to take something you think is awesome, and then I'm going to turn it into something that I think is awesome. And it's like,
Shit.
it's kind of this random...
What's wrong?
Hold that thought. I gotta switch the tape. It's out.
Oh, okay.
Are we taking over the writing stuff right now?
No, it never tapes.
Probably why there's so many issues there.
Alright,
Sorry.
so we're back on.
Did you hold that thought?
I
Hold
did
that thought.
put that.
Uh-oh.
I had a thought
Hold
about
on.
the action, like really quick.
Okay. I'm going to bring back the thought. So, I'm just going to finish real quick.
No, go for it.
When I was talking about Shepard Fairey's art and how it's, to me, in the future, going to be probably, even though he was one of the original street artists and his stuff is worth a lot right now and he's really popular because he keeps going to jail because he's still doing the street art thing, which is very smart because it keeps him fresh. But I feel like he's
him
going
cred.
to be, yeah, it keeps him, it's like makes him feel more legit, right? Because he's still doing the street part. So, but I feel like he's the one artist probably in the future that's going to get the most shit. Like he's going to, oh, remember that guy, he was, blah, blah. Like his art wasn't really.
You be too historically dated or something?
Yeah, or just like it wasn't as, I mean, it was political, but it wasn't as artistic as some of the other ones, like multimedia stuff. You know, like the stuff where, like, we have this art piece, we have this piece we bought at the bar at what bar was that?
Ruby Room.
Ruby Room. We bought a piece that was like this guy he had a stencil and it was real small, and it wasn't the main focus of the piece. And I feel like that is the kind of art, the street art that's going to be more of a like appreciating art in the future, where it's going to be like, not only is it part street, but it also has something else to offer, like moving on from just posters to actual like pieces of you know, creative art,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna come back more to
Well,
what looks best.